Hey, welcome here to the Montana Sportscast podcast. As Paul Panisco, Bob Ritterod joining us, as we're going to talk about a little Frontier Conference hoops. As we have coaches joining us here throughout the hour, and certainly looking forward to it. Bobby, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing good. Running a little behind today, but I guess that's
What?
better than not running. Better than
There you
not
go.
running at all. So,
That's the deal. I mean, no hot tub or anything yet. You're
oh,
actually
I
kind of
did
working.
that
Are you
early this
okay?
morning. Yeah,
All
I
right.
have to do that or I can't walk. Before we get going, Paul, I want to wish Coach John Thatcher a happy birthday before we get in
That's the
trouble.
deal.
Try to get you out of the hole, and I saw that comment you made earlier, so
Well, I'm never.
I don't want him mad at me.
Yeah, oh, that's the key because I'm never getting out of the hole. So as long as we can make it so he's all right with you, then we're fine. Yeah, but JT celebrating a birthday today, and we certainly have. He has so many friends and so many people around him, and everybody loves him. Certainly is a huge part of me as a person and as a broadcaster. JT and I have done games now for I think 13 years. With him back coaching, I love that he's back coaching. I certainly miss him a little bit broadcasting, but he's doing what he should be doing. And yeah, JT has been an extremely positive influence on me through the years, and really one of my good friends in the world. I love him to death.
Yeah, definitely for sure. The only regret I got about the guy is I wish I'd have met him 30 years sooner.
So he'd have been more apt to punch you. Was that the deal, or was
Well, I could run faster then though too. So well, Paul,
well, Bob,
I'll throw the standings up here. How's that sound?
do it. Let's go.
Maybe. There we go.
Let's do this. So,
All right.
do you have women on top there? Is that what it looks like?
Yep, got
Okay.
women on top.
So we've got Carroll and Rocky both 7-1, Western at 6-2, and now we're starting to see that this last week really put a significant separation. It looks like, with Carroll, Rocky, and then Western there in third place. Providence 2-6, Tech 2-6, Northern 0-8. The Carroll women coming off a really good weekend. They were impressive.
Yeah.
In both of their wins, especially when you go down to Dillon and get a win like that there. That's a big kind of an exclamation point going, hey, guess what? I don't think many people had written them off in any way, shape, or form, but they certainly showed that they are somebody that you cannot overlook even remotely.
No, that's for sure. And you know, there was some separation that last weekend, but Paul, this weekend's going to be another huge separation day. I think big test in the frontier for the top teams. I think.
Yeah, agreed. Yep, I agree. And starting to come close to our the end of our second trip through, and we'll get ready for a third. But as you look at the women's side currently, Bob, is there anything there that grabs you, or anything surprises you, or what do you make out of how this thing looks right now?
Well, I just think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, Carroll. With those two big time signature wins, I'll call them this past weekend, and they've Rocky goes to Carroll this weekend on Thursday, not this weekend, but Thursday. So that's going to decide that spot right there, the number one for first place. So I think that'll be a good one. Western at Northern. Western should handle that pretty easily. And Tech and Providence, I think that'll be another good game as well. And then on
Yeah.
Saturday, Tech and Northern. But Carroll and Providence women, I think they could be a surprise if they got hot, got things going. They
Mm-hmm.
could they they could do very well here in this weekend, and then of course Western at Rocky on Saturday night. So Rocky with two big games, they kind of hold their fate in their own hand here on the women's side this weekend, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great point. And you bring up Providence. That was a team that I think really stepped up in a big way last weekend.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just one gal. They really spread it around in both the games, and Providence um, kind of put themselves back in the fight as well. Obviously, we have several games left. They can certainly gain some ground. but a really nice weekend for them behind us, and we'll see, how the next 2 games look for the Providence ladies.
So I was going to count up, Paul. I think, what do we have? 7 games left?
I want to say
Must
that
be,
is the
yeah.
case. Yeah,
Yeah, I
three. So we
believe,
have three
yeah,
weekends of 2 each, and then one that next the
yeah,
final.
yeah, yeah. So 7 games left. So a lot of close games yet to come, I think,
Yeah,
in the remainder of the season. And then, of course, that conference tournament going to be uh, up there in Great Falls.
yeah. What's so as we get closer to that, how much of a difference do you think a neutral site tournament will make on how this thing shakes out?
Uh, I don't know. don't, it's hard to say as tough and as even as the conference is.
Yeah.
Paul, I really don't think it's going to make any big difference. Great Falls maybe get a little better crowd. Carroll's probably going to travel pretty good up there. Western
Mhm.
really traveled well here. They're not Western. Geez, who do we play? Can't remember
Providence.
who no, Saturday
Okay.
Northern
Okay.
actually had a pretty good crowd here on Saturday.
Good.
They'll probably travel pretty well to Great
Mhm.
Falls as well. So, and I think the teams that get into that Saturday situation, or let me see, Sunday, Monday. So the Monday, the semifinal games. I think you're going to see some students travel to those games, and
Mhm.
and if they're still feeling up to it, they'll probably stick around for the championship game. But I just think that I don't think it's going to be as big a deal um, as, say, it would a high school tournament
Okay.
because of the crowd situation.
Mhm.
And all these teams play so many games on the road and neutral sites that they're pretty used to that type of scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
What's your
No.
thoughts?
I think it's a little bit different on both sides. I feel like, I don't see the separation like we talked about on the women's side as far as Carroll, Rocky, Western. Then you have Providence Tech and Northern. I think you have that distinct separation now, and I think it will only continue to widen as we get to the end of this. So, until those later round games, I don't think it will matter a whole lot. But yeah, it'd be fun to get it back underneath the one roof. And the men's side for some reason. Um, I feel like it could be a big difference, because in the old, when it was just highest seed hosted, those crowds make a big difference. And I think we'll
Yeah.
have decent crowds, like you say, but when the teams are as tightly contested as they are on the men's side, and the level of play is at such a high place on the men's side, and everybody is just so darn close. It feels like that could be a much bigger factor on the men's side, in my opinion, than on the women's side. When you take out the huge crowds, you think about Carroll, you think about Tech and Rocky, and even at the Armory. Those are tough places to play, especially when it is a playoff game, when it's packed to the rafters. So if you take a little bit of that away and go to a neutral site, I think that really could help the lower seeds. In all honesty.
Yeah, I do too. I'm checking here. I think we're good here. Checking to see if Kurt had emailed me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge factor, taking it away from those ruckus crowds, for lack of better words.
Mhm.
But I definitely think it's going to be a better experience for the tournament players, the athletes. I think it's much better, especially for the bottom teams,
Mhm.
that basically, they're getting to go play in a tournament. They're actually a tournament setting instead of just going on the road and playing at another team game in the conference. So I think that's where the big difference is going to come in, is that experience for the student athletes. I
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah. And as we look at, the men's side of the bracket, I shouldn't say the bracket, but the standings as far as the men's go, you sit with Tech and Providence right now, both sitting at 6-2 in conference play. Carroll College coming off a huge weekend, 4-4, Northern 4-4, Western 3-5, Rocky 2-6. And what were your takeaways on the men's side this last week?
Well, I'm tired of doing 3 overtime games. I'll tell you that.
How about that? I mean, Northern has 8 conference games. 4 of them have gone to overtime. I mean, and only one of them is single overtime. They have 2 double overtime losses and then now a triple overtime win. That's amazing when half of their conference games have gone to overtime already. And with the brand of basketball they play, we're probably not done yet.
No, for sure. And got Kurt joining us here. We'll bring him in. We'll get rid of this thing.
Perfect. As Coach Kurt Paulson.
Hey,
are you there? Are you there, Kurt?
Wanted Google Chrome. I'm here.
All right.
Wanted me on Google Chrome. We don't have.
How are you, Coach?
I'm hanging in there. How are you guys?
Doing well. Hey, congratulations on a real big weekend for the Saints. That was every weekend is kind of a must-win situation, but last weekend truly felt like a must-win situation for the Saints as far as the 2 games, Thursday and Saturday.
Yeah, Thursday was an exciting win. We got down early to Western. They're very explosive and can shoot the 3, and they did that. It was 9-0. Not too favorable, but we kind of scratched and clawed and got back in it, and then we ended up getting up 10 or so multiple times, and it was a back and forth game. So, and then that gave us a little confidence coming into Saturday hosting a really good Tech team.
Give us your take on the Frontier right now. I haven't talked to you in a little while, so let's chat about that. We're kind of in the middle of our second trip through. Is this men's side shaping up to what you expected it to be like, or what were your expectations coming into conference?
Yeah, it's kind of been foggy. I don't know if many of the coaches expected anything. It was so many new players from last year in the league. So it's kind of been a crapshoot as far as seeing what new players are contributing. And so I don't really know what the expectations were for anybody. I remember we did the Frontier Media Days and everybody was kind of talking about that same thing of there's going to be a lot of new faces. And so it's hard to predict.
What's we always talk about that Cactus Classic is always a great, I guess, a feeder to find out where we're at as a conference. When the women go down, the men go down. Even before you went down, it was one of those looking at your schedule. That was like a murderer's row when you set up 4 games in 4 days in the South. Talk about your experience coming through the Cactus Classic, and you take losses, but what do you learn coming out of Arizona with those?
Yeah, that was kind of a rough trip for us, to be honest, Paul. We did learn a lot. We kind of have a young group playing a lot of freshmen and sophomores, so that was a tough trip for us. But we're getting better as we go. That's for sure.
When you're playing with the youth, when you're, like I say, a lot of freshmen, a lot of sophomores, guys stepping up in a big way, where that learning curve is awful steep. How is the group coming together as a unit right now, and how happy are you with their progress? Like I say, with a lot of youth on the floor for you currently.
Well, we're pretty inconsistent, so it's going to be a time will tell type of thing for us. We haven't been very consistent up to this point, and so I just hope we can get to that point in the near future. These games just come so quick. You play Thursday, Saturday, catch your breath, and then it's back to it Monday. So it's just such short turnarounds and lots to do for each team. You got to prepare, and everybody's good and well coached. So every week's a new adventure.
No joke. We continue to talk about your youth, but one of your leaders is Andrew Cook. Cook coming off a fantastic weekend. Earlier today announced National Player of the Week. are you able to celebrate that currently, or is that something you almost celebrate a little bit later? Because you talk about how quick things turn around and how fast things go. That's a pretty tremendous honor for that young man, and certainly a great weekend.
Yeah, he earned it. He's a true sophomore, and he's always in the gym working, whether we've won or lost. So kudos to him. He earned that, and it'll be neat to celebrate it. Yeah, we definitely want to celebrate that. Those things come around very few and far between. So, but
Yeah.
he earned it. He's one of our hardest workers.
The parity in the conference this year seems to be, at least in my eyes, is might be the best I've seen in my years. You look at, you've got Rocky at 2-6 currently in conference, Western at 3-5, Tech and Providence 6-2, and it just depends on what floor you're on, in my opinion. The level of play right now is so good, and the athleticism is so good, and as you mentioned, the coaching is at another level right now. The Frontier is just a murderer's row.
Yeah, the matchups are a big part of it, and then home and away games. These young guys, they tend to play a little bit different home and away. Those are factors for sure. And
Yeah.
then just how each team has a different style and each team matches up. I think each team has pretty different styles. Some similarities, but also differences. So matchups are kind of a key part of it. Different teams match up better with others and not good with some. So that's all part of it.
It's amazing how that works, isn't it? I mean, it's for us sitting on the outside looking in, it's easy for us to say that, but as a coach, that has to be a hard pill to swallow sometimes, where, it's certainly easy when you look at a team and go, we've got the advantage here, but there are going to be times where you look at it the other way and go, man, we just can't match up with X or Y, or, as a coach, that has to be really hard to try and figure out, and certainly a hell of a challenge.
Yeah, sometimes you got to decide, like, if you're going to try to match their personnel on the floor with your lineup, or if you want to make them match up with you. That's also a decision you have to make. It's 50-50 which direction you want to go, and I think that's part of it. Every game you got to decide what you want to do.
When you talk about when you self-analyze and look at Carroll on video, on paper, what are the Saints' strengths going into these final several weeks?
Well, I'm still figuring that out, Paul. I could tell you our weaknesses, for sure. We're still figuring that out, to be honest.
Yeah.
We don't quite know. Um, Early December, I could have told you a little bit better, but then um, we're just still figuring ourselves out, and so I don't know the answer to that. Maybe one of the other coaches in the league could tell better about my own team.
What do you have, Bobby?
Well, Coach, thanks for coming on, and I know you got to run to practice. Paul and I were talking before you came on. What's your thoughts on having the tournament at one location this year in Great Falls?
Yeah, I think it'll be neat for the players, more of a tournament feel than kind of a playoff feel. It should be neat for them. It used to be like that. You guys hosted it down in
Yeah.
Butte, and it was pretty neat at the MAC. Um, I think it ends up coming down to like a revenue thing, is why it went away, and you're getting more money doing it at the home sites, and that's how it was for a while. And obviously, it's fun that way too. But it'll be neat for them, get a little bit more of a high school feel tournament, and it'll be new for the 12 teams, and it should be fun.
Yeah, and I think that you know playing in one spot, not having LC and West Mini, because there was a couple times when they ended up playing in the championship, and of course nobody showed up. But this time with all the Montana schools, I think we're going to have a pretty good crowd.
Yeah, it'll be neat. I'm looking forward to it. But we got 4 more weeks till we talk tourney time. So a lot of conference games left to see what the seedings look like.
Well, Coach, I know you got to go. I know you got got a tough game on Thursday night, I hope. Let's put it that way. I hope you don't have to go into 3 overtimes like we did the other night. That about wore me out talking through that one. But you got Rocky and Providence. Good luck this weekend and the rest of the season.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Appreciate your time, Coach.
For having me on, and
You
thanks
bet.
for being flexible. A lot of stuff going on each week, so I
Oh,
appreciate
yeah.
you being flexible.
Yeah,
Oh,
no
yeah.
worries, Coach. Best of luck, man.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that's one of those things where, Coach brings it up. I mean, they're taking an awful lot of their time to join us. So we thank him for that and for whatever we can get from him. But yeah, it's a crazy time, no matter what level you're coaching at, to try and get time to break away and chat. And, especially as we start to kind of get down to the wire here. Yeah, we appreciate these coaches an awful lot for taking time out and joining us and talking a little BS.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we try to get it done on Tuesdays. That's with that game on Thursday. Wednesday they're into pregame mode, so it makes it kind of tough for them. But
Yeah.
hopefully we can keep it up. And like you say, Paul, I want to thank them for doing it. But kind of get back, we got Coach Woolley coming on here in about 15 minutes, probably somewhere like that. But get back to this weekend's games. I just, on the women's side, it's going to be a big weekend, I think, men and women. But like I said, I think the Rocky women, probably the toughest, most important weekend probably of their season, will be this weekend with Carroll and Providence, or Carroll and Western, excuse me.
Yeah, that's tough. That's just that, you're trying to, and they're in Helena, correct?
Yes. Yep.
And then is it in Dillon or are they at home?
No, Rocky is at home on Saturday.
So at least you have that. At least it isn't home, and are away back to back. So that certainly helps an awful lot. But yeah, that's a huge weekend for Rocky, and two very good opponents. And you look at, obviously a great weekend for Rocky. I mean, we talked about Carroll, we talked about Western, Providence Tech, and everyone else here for a minute, but we really didn't get into Rocky. Rocky just kind of going to work. They're 15-5 overall, 7-1 in Frontier Conference play. It does feel like maybe the spotlight falls on Carroll, falls on Western a little bit, and yet, Rocky still just continues to rack up wins and take care of business.
Yeah, and everybody talked about India Fly last year, but I actually think this team is maybe a better team, well-rounded team. They're definitely deeper. Coach Keller can comfortably go 8, 9 deep, actually. And he's got bigs and littles coming off the bench. So, yeah, I think that, I think they're just getting better each week. There's a couple of new cogs there that are working into the system. But you got to realize the only player they lost last year was India Fly.
Yeah.
That was in their scoring. I mean, they had some couple other players that played their role well. And the thing about Rocky this year, they only have one senior on the team, and that's Chloe Thatcher.
Well, she better be. She's like 33 years old.
Yeah. We talked about that the other day at halftime. So, so I wanted to throw in there, Paul, that I don't know if you heard how that third overtime ended. That game ended against Rocky and Northern, but I believe it was Martinez from Northern shot the ball with 4.6 seconds to go on the clock in the third overtime to tie it up. And then he stole the inbounds pass and shot and made the basket that won the game.
Wow.
So he made 4 points in 4.6 seconds and won the game.
Wow. That's amazing. Good for him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but
I mean, you know what I mean.
No, that was
I'm sitting here in my tech gear, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I see. But no, that was boy, those two teams, and that's the thing about the Frontier Conference. Every kid in every team just plays their heart out.
Yep.
And I think you got to give that credit to the coaching staffs.
Yep.
But they just never give up. They're battling. They're in every game, and man, they leave everything on the floor. Both men and women, I think,
Yeah.
just throughout the whole conference. But
I,
yeah,
you-
I think we're pretty fortunate to watch some great basketball.
yeah, I agree. And like I said, I'm sitting here in my tech gear, and I think of Jeff Graham, John Thatcher, and the Lady Ordingers. They're 6-12 overall. They're 2-6 in conference play. And they leave nothing out. I mean, they go so hard, they play so hard, and just get after it. And they've got a few wins here and there. They're in every game,
Yeah.
and they just continue to battle, and that is worth so much. Those are the things you can't teach. I mean, you're
No.
going to be able to recruit a little bit better. You're going to be able to get after it, but the things that you can't teach, these athletes have in spades, and that's work ethic, and that is drive, and just that continual pedal to the floor. And yeah, this year I completely agree. It just feels like everybody just gets after it. The desire is there. They're incredibly well coached, and yeah, it really shows in all aspects of the game we've seen thus far.
And hats off to the Skylights from MSU Northern. They came into Rocky. Coach Mowat with 8 players.
Yeah.
Is all he had on the bench there. So and they all played their hearts out.
Yep.
And looking at an 0-8 record, but there's no give up in them at all. And it's just it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Fun to
Yeah.
watch. The competitiveness of this conference, and I don't think I can stress enough for people to get out there and watch some of these games and enjoy the quality of basketball that we have
Yep.
in the Frontier. And the thing I like about it is I think we're seeing more and more Montana kids on these rosters all the time.
Yep. Yep. And
know?
that's something, I'm not sure I paid a ton of attention to in the early years, but it feels like I pay a lot more attention to it year in, year out now. And yeah, there are a lot of Montana kids on these rosters, and the level of play is staggering. I know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the numbers. I know Tech has 12 guys on their roster are Montana kids. And then it just rolls from there. I mean, you're looking at it is basically a Montana conference, and the level of play when you take that into factor is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I think that's why we're seeing good crowds. I mean, here at Rocky anyway, we've had really good crowds
Yeah.
almost every game practically. We're even the Saturday game, we did lose some people in that overtime game the other night. I know that there was some high school games going on in town, and there were some people left during that. But yeah, it's just great basketball.
Yeah, that it is. And like I say, then you start getting into, you factor in rivalries, you factor in all of that stuff, and it just adds even more to it. Like you look at, again, going back to Coach Paulson, they had a great weekend. They go 2-0
Yeah.
this past weekend, and they really needed it. They
Oh, yeah.
needed a push in a bad way. And you look at that rivalry that is built in with Tech. I mean, 10 of the last 11 times they have played, the home team has won, and now it's 11 of 12. The only road team that has won in the last 12 games was, last year for the Chipper. I mean, that was
Yeah.
it. Otherwise, the home team has held court. And most of them, truthfully, haven't been real close games. It's normally, probably double digits, 12 to 14 points, one way or the other on the other person's floor. And it's amazing how much that can matter playing at home in front of your crowd and that type of thing. But yeah, when you start rolling those factors in, it changes everything. I can't imagine what the Western was like with Carol in the house and I certainly know what it's like when we go that direction. That dog pound
Right.
is one of the more raucous, fun groups to be around. Crowds are a big deal.
Yeah. Well, that Tech crowd can get pretty rowdy down there on the end too.
Yeah, that they can. Yeah.
And that's another thing, that's fun now that the students are back and getting into the
Yeah.
games. It's that first weekend after we came back after the New Year, boy, it just didn't seem like the same atmosphere, that's for sure. But
I agree, but that said, I still was impressed with the crowds when school wasn't back yet. That
yeah,
that really did jump out that the crowds were bigger than I expected because those first couple games normally are pretty quiet, because
yeah,
students aren't around and everything like that. But I was still surprised how good crowds were, even with kids not back yet. So you bring up the hooligans at Tech, and I always think of Dryco, Coach Dryco's, and the fun he has with them. I mean,
oh
he
yeah,
goes over, he's hooting and hollering with them, and he's one of my favorites to watch interact with them, and they just have a great time with him. And he knows exactly what the experience still is, and he's there for the right reason. Getting kids fired up and having fun. And yeah, whenever I think of the hooligans, I kid you not, I always think of Coach Drycozen when he goes over and starts getting into it, and just having fun with him. He's an awful lot of fun to watch around the hooligans.
well, and I think a lot of that probably extends to all the coaches that played in the Frontier, and we have several,
Yep, that we do.
that played in that environment, grew up in it, and now they're coaching in it.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's a great thing to see, and great thing to have in the colleges. And I really, to be honest with you, Paul, I don't think there's an easy place to go and play in the Frontier Conference. I
no,
really don't. You
no,
talk to, I used to ask that question all the time, and um, where kids' favorite place to play was. And I was surprised, probably 65% of the kids that I asked, uh, Northern in Armory was their
yeah,
pick. And it's just because the fans are so close,
yep,
and right on top of you, basically. But, that I was kind of surprised at that. And then I did start asking kids, where do you not like to play? They really couldn't give me an answer. They
yeah,
just, it's just a great atmosphere everywhere you go. And a lot of people that sit on the outside, maybe never played in a game or been around college sports or high school sports. You know, when you go into an environment like that, that's what you live for. That's what you thrive for. That's all part of the competition and the competitive spirit that drives you to be better.
yep.
And it's just a tremendous experience.
Yeah, and it's always so good. I don't. I'm with you. I don't. All the venues are great, and we don't have, and maybe it's that idea that we don't have the luxury of a conference that is 12 or 14 deep, where maybe seven of them are truly competitive, and
Yeah.
there are six or eight that are just wins. We've never had that. It doesn't matter, even when, we've had juggernauts go through this conference. You think about the teams that LC has rolled through here with. You think about, well, I mean, even when, Rocky wins the national championship, what were they? They were a 6 seed in the Frontier tournament that year.
Yes.
So, I mean, again, that just to me shows where we're at as a conference. You can't take days off. You certainly can't take quarters off. And I think that idea that every game is so critical, I think really elevates the conference as well. If we had opponents that were, absolute speed bumps, I think that would change the conference we know, and I think it wouldn't change it for the better. That's for sure.
No. No, and Coach Paulson brought up, and we've talked about the matchup thing several times, and it is huge. I mean, the it makes all the difference in the world. But I think that's another contributing factor why the conference has gotten better is because the coaching has realized that they need to go out and recruit a big. They got to go out and recruit a great point guard. They got to have a
Yeah,
good shooter, and um, I think something else that's become real important is you got to be long and you got to be athletic.
Yep.
It just amazes me how long and athletic all these kids are that are coming through here anymore that make a huge difference. It's just defensively, they just make an impact.
I think that's a great point. And, we've spent an awful lot of years talking about, certain coaches as defensive minded coaches, and I think of Coach Hughes, and everybody had better think of Coach Hughes in that respect. I think of Coach
Oh,
Adam
yeah.
Hyatt in that same respect.
Yeah.
But, I feel like we focus on them and we might forget the rest of them. This league has turned very defensive, and we've we always talk about we give Coach Keller a hard time at Providence about the fact that and especially speaking of JT on his birthday, the amount of gruff he'll give him about never learning, never teaching kids how to play defense is amazing if you've ever been around for it. But all the coaches are the amount of defense played in our conference right now from top to bottom is pretty staggering, and it goes to that idea of athleticism, and playing 40 minutes on both sides of the floor. You're just not going to be able to take plays or series off anymore.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's really come into play is that coaches are realizing that those kids can't play 40 minutes.
Yeah. Bench depth's a big deal.
Yeah, and I think I saw it in the Tech women here at Rocky last week. I think they just kind of ran out of gas that last quarter. Their shots were short, and I just think that they just ran out of gas. You got to be able to play a few more players and have some more depth there.
Yeah, certainly.
Should we let this guy in, or
we probably should do that?
He stood us up last week. But I guess we'll bring him in. How we doing, Coach Woolley?
Good. How are you two fine young gentlemen doing today?
Oh, look at him starting
wonderful.
to suck it up. Hello, brother.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Life is good.
Good for you. Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Lindsay Woolley, Bulldogs of UM Western. Good to see you, Coach.
And you guys too.
What's give us your take? I mean, we're getting ready for another week. Frontier Conference is a brawl like every weekend. We were just talking about the parity. I mean, and the fact that the Frontier has always been that way. We're not one of those conferences that has weak sisters that you're going to get guaranteed wins no matter where you go. Every week you have to be prepared, and this year is no different.
Yeah, it's kind of more the same as we finish up round 2 and get ready for round 3. It's just a grind, and I think everybody would probably echo my statement is that it never gets any easier. You just have to continue to try to get your team a little better every week, and the preparation sometimes gets you think it's easier just because your kids are more familiar, and it's almost like you're playing yourself at times. In terms of preparation standpoint.
We were just talking about the beauty of having bench depth, being able to go to your bench and bring ladies out and not lose anything. And you find yourself in that situation this year where you have a little bit of a bench where, last year you did not. You certainly, it has paid dividends for you this year.
It certainly has. I mean, obviously last year we just had so many different injuries. Throughout the course of the year, it seemed like we were battling them all, and then we'd get healthy for a week, and then obviously we finished with eight people, with one basically being a red shirt, so we basically had 7. This year, we can play 10, 11 deep, and I think that it does a lot of things. One, like I made a commitment that we were going to try to get the freshman minutes, especially early in the year, because we thought we were going to need them, and then. They've just continued to get better and better and better, and that's in turn made our team better. And then the other thing is it does that you don't always think about is it kind of holds your upperclassmen accountable a little bit in terms of, you have to go out and perform, or you can sit here and watch like the rest of us.
Yeah. That, your squads in particular always feel like your floor generals lead by example. I think when I think of your teams, I always think of real physical play, never letting any play die, whether it's a ball going towards the corner, whether it's, like the possibility of an over and back or anything like that, that the idea of it's always hustle 100%. And that's one of the calling cards I would put on your teams at your tenure at Western. And that doesn't feel like something that a coach can get across as well as obviously your players feel like they're kind of the dictators behind that.
Yeah, for sure. And first of all, thank you. Most people from Butte don't have those nice compliments like that. So I appreciate that, Paul. No, I think they understand. It's just kind of the standard that has kind of been created and passed down from class to class in terms of this is how we play. And if you don't play this way, then you don't get to play. And they've, like you said, they just kind of, they go out and they compete at everything that they do. And, we hope that it carries on to, whether it's in the classroom or in their personal relationships and going out and getting a job and all those other things that are important. So I think, it's kind of been a hallmark and I hope that it continues to be that way. And I think with with this freshman class, it certainly appears that they've caught on quite quickly.
I guess talk about your freshmen a little bit. I mean, they've come up a couple times. Let's discuss your freshmen a little bit and what they have meant to this program to this point.
Yeah, I think it took them a little while to kind of pick up on our offensive system, and they still make mistakes from time to time. But there's one. I got my roster right there. 1, 2, 3. There's 4 of them, 5 of them if you count Emma. She was out all year last year with an injury. Plus Peyton, who I kind of consider a freshman because she's a second-year college student, but this is her first year in our program. So Emily Cooley's probably played the most minutes out of all of them, kind of at the backup 5 spot, and she's just continued to get better and better and better, and just she performs the most consistently of the group, if that makes sense. And for us as coaches, that builds confidence to have a kid that you can count on. What you're going to get, whether it's, and it doesn't necessarily have to be points and a bunch of rebounds, just in terms of effort and taking care of the little things and defending and those types of things. So she's been really consistent for us the majority of the year. Just a tough, athletic kid from Big Timber. She actually grew up in Glendive, but spent the last 3 years of high school in Big Timber. And then Isabella Len from Washington is another kid that's come on and been playing really well lately. She's a little guard from Rochester, Washington, via Tumwater High School. Had a really good high school program. A ton of success. They didn't get over the hump and win a state championship per se, but they were right in the mix the last 3 years of her high school career. And then Kyla, Joel Nell's little sister, obviously had most Montana high school basketball fans are familiar with the Momberg group up there in Box Elder and all the success that they had. Yeah. Especially her coming back for her senior year after spending a year in Spokane. And then Kiki Davis from Hellgate in Missoula is another kid that just brings a ton of energy and defends and kind of a more physical presence than you oftentimes see with freshmen. Sometimes that gets her into foul trouble, but sometimes we have to take the good with the bad. And then lastly, Peyton Hagee's she's a transfer from North Idaho College. She's a small town Ephrata, Washington kid. Just a lot of energy, really good shooter. Thought she was a point guard. She's probably more of a combo guard. But she's done a good job at times backing up Jordan at the point guard spot. And so just to have that, like we talked about, have the depth to be able to, sometimes all 5 of them are out there together. I like to mix in our older kids with them as much as I can, but sometimes it just happens that way. And they've been holding their own.
Good for you. Yeah. That depth is so important. And I mean, that's no mystery whatsoever. We talk about how long this season is. You obviously brought up the injuries that you suffered a year ago with the team. Does that change how you approach like preseason or the middle of the frontier? It's over your years. Have you approached anything differently to try and get the most out of the ladies and obviously have them ready come tournament time?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're always tweaking. I mean, I'm not tweaking to the point like my father, the ex-hockey player, thinks that I should be subbing 5 in every 2 minutes and
line change.
Right. Yeah, right. To line change him. He's like, well, they can't possibly play hard for more than 2 minutes at a time. And I'm like, well, yeah, I understand what you're saying, Dad. But anyway, I also don't agree that your best players should only play 20 minutes. So,
I'm sorry. I wouldn't take Fitzgerald off the floor ever.
Right. And so I think it's important. I think early. I mean, I we really try to spread out the minutes as much as we can early, and sometimes in league play it gets a little bit harder because sometimes I do my best to try to get, if I can get all 5 of those kids in the first half is my goal, and then it's kind of like, how are they playing? Are they comfortable? What's their confidence level at? And then sometimes it's lineup combinations, and so they don't necessarily all play the same. And some nights Peyton plays 15 minutes, some nights she plays 5, and Kyla's similar. Some nights it's 15 to 18 minutes, some nights it's only 8 or 9, and that's just a byproduct of having some good older kids ahead of you, as well as just the decisions that I have to make as the game goes on, because we still only have 200 minutes to distribute amongst them all, and obviously when Brinley's playing well and Mesa's playing well, that's 30 to 35 minutes each, and Jordan as well. Now that she's starting to get healthier again, she's a kid that can play 30 to 35. So, it's just a matter of what's available and who's performing when they're out there.
Let's talk about the idea of the tournament under one roof again. Is that give us your take on your opinion about it? If you're looking forward to it, and kind of go from there.
I think it's great. I mean, I think it's a good reward for the fact that we have to play everybody 3 times in the regular season, which is as unnatural of a college experience as you can get as a college basketball player. I just felt like when you got to the postseason tournament in the past, you were just playing a 4th conference game, and sometimes the crowds were a little bit better or whatever the case may be, but it doesn't. I think when you go to a neutral site, I'm hoping it'll kind of give it more of a tournament postseason atmosphere, as opposed to just going up to Carroll for the 3rd time, or going to Rocky for the 3rd time, or them coming to our place for the 3rd time. I think it's better for our kids, and I think obviously doing it in Great Falls is going to be good because it's a basketball town. I mean, they love basketball, being there and being close to the High Line and those types of things, and obviously it not conflicting with any high school tournaments, other than possibly a challenge game on that Monday night. Then we should get some good crowds, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah. The scheduling obviously is one of the hardest things you have to deal with as a coach. Any coach we talk to, that's always the case, is the idea of getting non-conference games, trying to get them at home, especially. Do you see anything changing in that respect moving forward? Is it getting easier to get teams up here? Is it getting harder to get teams to Montana? Give us your take on that.
No, it's not getting easier.
I was hoping. I was hoping.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost gotten worse with. I think we all naively thought that 28 games, going from 30 to 28 scheduled games, was going to make scheduling easier, because we didn't have to find those, we would find 13 games instead of 15. But I don't think any of us, I know I didn't think about the fact that, everybody only needs 28 games. And so some of the leagues that have, you look at the Cascade, and they have 22 league games. So they only need to schedule 6. And there's probably over half the NAIA plays 20 plus league games. Well, they don't need a lot of games. And so it's gotten worse, and it's not going to get any better. It's not like anybody's going to join our league. And so we'll just continue to do what we do, I guess. I have lots of thoughts, but I won't share them with you in public, Paul.
I was just going to say, I'm kind of partial to when you do share them with me. Come on, man. It's a hard thing to deal with, and the central site tournaments, like the Cactus Classic, things like that. Do you think those are kind of the answer moving forward? Do we try and get one up? We've certainly had teams come through and play 3 of us or 4 of us, for over a week. Is that kind of the mold and structure you think we're looking at for the near future?
I don't know any other way to do it unless you're going to fly all over the country. I mean, we flew twice this year. We'll fly twice. I mean, we're going to have to fly twice to play. And I remember 7-8 years ago, they said, well, no, you're not allowed to fly. And now you're just like, well, are we supposed to play a schedule, or are we not going to play a schedule? Because it's not feasible to get on a bus and go to Arizona, or get on a bus and go to Portland or Northern California or Southern California. I mean, and those are the closest places. So yeah, the more of those that we could somehow manage to pull off is great. But we're just really fortunate down there with having Sills at Chandler Gilbert to let us use the facility, and he's great to work with, and it's not like that everywhere.
Yeah, no joke. Sorry, I think I made your head hurt. I'll turn it over to Bob. What do you got, Bobby?
Paul, when Western plays Rocky, that's probably the easiest game of the year for me to broadcast because he and Coach Keller run the same plays. They don't even change what they call them. They call them the same plays. And he's got
Bob,
written on the board.
I can't change my calls because I don't know what to call.
He's got them written on the board behind him. So no. First of all, I want to ask, how's Paige doing, Coach?
Paige is doing great. She is coming home today, actually.
Good. Glad to hear that. Gosh, I was sorry to hear that. And tough thing to go through. And I know you guys have done a lot for him down there. And, the Frontier, I think what Coach Mowat did there with Coaches for a Cause, I think he did pretty well there. So,
yep, absolutely.
Any little bit helps. I've been in that position and I understand fully, but tough weekend. You go to Northern, you're on the road. That Northern team, Coach Mowat, and then you come to Rocky. And, when you left here at before New Year's, I told you that was the only game you're going to win here this year. So,
it's time to try to prove you wrong.
Talk a little bit about the remainder of the season, what you see. I mean, everybody seems to be fairly healthy across the board, the way it looks to me.
Yeah, and I don't know that anybody's really dealing with a ton of injuries per se, especially to their top 5 or 6 kids, which is good. I mean, you want the league to be healthy, and you want everybody to be at full strength as much as possible. I always felt like when you got to round 3, it's just a matter of your kids, keeping them fresh and keeping them engaged and keeping them excited, to be honest with you. I just think that when you get to that 3rd round, whether your team is good or your team isn't as good, keeping them excited about facing somebody again for that 3rd time is important. And, we try to do it by doing less, to be honest with you, in terms of whether it's practice and just trying to limit the reps and cut down on what we're doing, just so they're, hopefully feeling good, both physically and mentally. And, obviously for us, it's kind of shaping out to be a 3-horse race. I mean, I'm not sure that there's anybody that can catch the 3 of us that are out ahead. So it's obviously we have to go out and play well at Northern. And then I'm sure Wes will have them all fired up when we get down to Billings on Saturday after traveling through the central part of the state. Haven't done that in a while. So
it's beautiful.
Yes, it is. We'll check all the wind gauges before we decide which direction, which route.
That is wise.
I had to go to Bozeman this morning, and there was a bus past me, and I'm thinking, man, I'm glad I'm not on that bus the way the wind was blowing this morning. But travel. Speaking of travel, how do you like the Saturday afternoon games? You get home a little earlier that way.
That's great. I mean, to be home. I mean, we got home from Northern by 11 o'clock at night, and usually that's a 4 o'clock in the morning ordeal.
Yeah.
I just think it gives your kids a day. It gives them a full Sunday where they can maybe be on a little bit more of a normal sleep pattern and get up at their usual time and have a day to themselves to do schoolwork or just check out and hang with friends and do what they want to do. So I just think it's great. Like, I haven't noticed anything from a crowd perspective. I think our Saturday crowds are better than our Thursday crowds here. And obviously with us being small, it depends a little bit what's going on with the high school, but those Saturday afternoon crowds seem to be some of our better crowds so far.
Yeah, and that was honestly going to be my only other question was if you felt like they were hurting crowd, but on my token, it seems the same. It feels like the Saturday afternoon crowds are just as good as, if not better than if they were at night. Yep,
I'd be fine if we went 12-2. I don't think anybody would go for like 9-11.
I was just gonna say, holy man, you're pushing us to the old timers home real quick here. All of a sudden,
well, the sooner I can get, I want that game over as soon as possible. So the sooner it starts, the sooner it gets over with, and I don't have to wait for it.
I don't know. Then I'd have to get up an hour earlier, though. So, well, Coach, we'll let you go. Thanks a lot for coming on and joining us, and I'll even if you and Keller don't change your names of your plays. I'll make something up and so that the people think you're calling different plays or something.
Appreciate it.
All right. All right. Thanks for coming on, Coach.
All right,
Appreciate
thanks.
it, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Take care, man.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Paige. I think that's a great aspect. It looks like Paige is coming home and really happy about that, as the Frontier Conference family felt like they really came together for her. And we certainly wish her, and her husband and baby all the best, and really good to have her home after a pretty ugly scenario for her.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's, people just don't realize all the little bills that pop up, gas and motels and those kind of
Yep.
things, food, we all got to eat. And
Yep.
that goes with being away from home like that and in that situation. So, yeah, glad to hear she's coming home and doing well.
Yeah, by all means. And it's funny because, I bring up to Woolley about the idea of hustle and just getting after it. I don't think there's a better example than Paige Holmes. Paige Holmes
No.
is truly one of the best defenders I've ever seen. And that's great that she is coming home, and our best to her and her family.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
All right.
Well, Paul, you want to wrap
Bobby?
us up for the day?
Sure. I guess we're done. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us for the Montana Sportscast podcast. For Bob Ritterod, and our thanks to our coaches for joining us here. I'm Paul Panisco, and until next time, take care.